Hey everybody, welcome to Always Bored, Never Boring. As of creating this video, GenCon 2023 is in full swing. It kicked off on August the 3rd, 2023 and runs through August the 6th, 2023. And of course, Avalon Hill are there with a booth full of gaming goodness, including some brand new HeroQuest products. Before we talk about that, let's just back up slightly. On the run up to the release of Rise of the Dreadmoon, we knew of one more forthcoming product. Avalon Hill had teased the foil cover for Prophecy of Telor, which previously only existed as a quest book available during the original HeroQuest crowdfunding campaign on the HasLab platform. With Prophecy of Telor confirmed, it seemed likely that the other quest books from the crowdfunding campaign would follow, and recent leaks and rumours would seem to point to that same conclusion. Those rumours started to circulate in July 2023, when a few stores suddenly offered pre-orders for a string of HeroQuest products that at the time Avalon Hill hadn't confirmed, although they had sneakily hinted at one of them, which I will get to momentarily. The products were Prophecy of Telor, which we already knew about, Spirit Queen's Torment, which is another quest from the crowdfunding campaign, Against the Ogre Horde, which would be a retooling of the old European expansion of the same name, and then Path of the Wandering Monk, something completely new. I personally saw these pre-orders on a website called Isle of Games, but I'm always a bit dubious of these things when there's no additional information. I decided to sit on my thumbs and wait for some more concrete information to drill into, especially as Isle of Games had to 404 their pre-order page for these products almost immediately, probably after a stern talking to from Avalon Hill. And we didn't have to wait long for the concrete information to arrive, because at GenCon, Avalon Hill have presented for pre-order a new character pack, Path of the Wandering Monk. Now, in hindsight, this isn't such a surprise. You may recall a moment ago I said Avalon Hill had hinted at what they were going to show. If we look at the official GenCon blog, we can see that on the 30th of June there was an official announcement from Avalon Hill to say they would be returning to the con with HeroQuest, and in that article it states, "Who knows what other HeroQuest news will be wandering around our booth." Oh, you cheeky little monkeys. But anyway, we have our first look at the Wandering Monk character pack. This is technically the third retail character pack Avalon Hill have released, after the rare Commander of the Guardian Knight and then the Rogue Heir of Elathorn. The packaging this time is different. They have eschewed the black box for something a little brighter, and it appears that the box can double as a sort of display stand for the miniatures. But the contents of the pack seem to follow the same format as always. You get 2 miniatures, 1 male, 1 female, and then all the necessary cards and rules to use them in your games of HeroQuest. The miniatures look decent, what I would expect from HeroQuest at this point, although they have made the weird choice of showcasing the male monk using unarmed combat, while the female monk, who is more elaborately dressed, is fighting with a staff. This seems a bit unusual because the stat card for the monk includes a special rule at the bottom of the card that says while they have an attack of only 1 dice, this increases to 2 when they use unarmed combat. The other stats are Defend 3, which is very good and will possibly be to offset restrictions on the armour they can wear, and then Body 6 and Mind 4. Why monks would only have a mind of 4 is anyone's guess. I feel like the years of mental training would mean their mind was much higher. The monk also has some restrictions. They cannot wear any armour or use shields. The only weapons they are allowed to use are daggers, crossbows, hand axes, short swords and staffs. The most interesting thing about the monk is a new elemental fighting style. The monk has a card for each of the elements water, wind, earth, fire and heart. Actually, scratch that last one. Each card has a power printed on each side. The idea appears to be that the monk can use either of the powers printed on an elemental card, but after doing so that card is temporarily exhausted. The additional twist is they are only allowed to use their incredibly powerful fire elemental style if they have first exhausted their wind, water and earth cards. I guess this would be the Path the name of the expansion references. The monk must travel or flow through 3 different fighting styles before tapping into their inner Charmander and unleashing hell. However, there is a way to recover exhausted cards. If there are no monsters in the monk's line of sight at the start of their turn, they recover all of their exhausted elemental cards. This gives me pause for concern. It means that if you ever want to use your fire abilities, you are going to have to play very aggressively indeed, staying up in the monster's grills and constantly charging into battle. That, to me, doesn't sound like the grace and control a monk should exhibit. That sounds more like a barbarian going into a rage. The idea of moving through different fighting styles to unlock a powerful finishing move is very... well, I mean, it's basically the tabletop version of an arcade beat-em-up. You are putting together a combo, stepping from style to pull off a killer finishing move. And that's pretty interesting, although I do wonder if it might be a little restrictive. I'm not going to ponder it too much for now, not until I've seen all the abilities and rules and can get a better feel for how they can all link and interact. Regardless, at the GenCon booth we did see a couple of the monk's abilities. The water abilities are called Twisting Torrent and Tidal Surge. The latter lets you split your total movement roll before and after your action. That's a very useful ability as it will allow you to move, attack and then use the rest of your movement to get out of danger. I do think the wording should have just said split your movement to account for those occasions when you use it while also using the unthreatened movement rule, but I've said before that Avalon Hill often don't seem to take into account their previous rules and ideas when they create something new, and this is certainly no deal breaker anyway. The air abilities are Eye of the Storm and Soaring Dragon. Soaring Dragon lets you automatically succeed when jumping over a trap. Less useful, but still nice to have. The Earth abilities are Speak with Stone and Strength of Mountain. The latter ability lets you add 2 dice to an unarmed attack, which would give you 4 dice for that one attack. The Fire abilities are Burning Spirit and Touch of Endless Inferno. For the Inferno ability, you spend 1 action to automatically inflict 1 body point of damage on an adjacent enemy. At the end of the enemy's next turn, they will take an additional 2 body points of damage. So we've basically got a DPS ability. It's a good move for guaranteeing a small amount of damage and applying additional damage to an enemy with a lot of body points to help bring it down over the course of several rounds. The Burning Spirit ability says that as an action you can expel a beam of brilliant energy from your soul's core. This beam may be straight or diagonal and continues until it meets a wall or closed door. Each enemy in the beam takes 2 body points of damage. Incredibly powerful as long as none of your allies are standing in the way. So there's definitely some interesting stuff in there, and while I'm not entirely sold on the idea of having to exhaust the other stars to access the fire abilities, I do like that they have moved away from the 1 use per quest skill style, and they have layered in something extra to think about in terms of balancing when you want to recover the weaker powers and when you want to press forward to use your most powerful fire attacks. I also like the idea that once you have used a fire ability, you are spent and no longer have access to any fighting styles until all the monsters are cleared out and you can start recovering your cards. Unlike something like the Knight, where you use their abilities and then they are just a regular brawler from that point on, it seems like the Monk, similar to the Rogue Heir, will give you more to think about throughout the entire adventure, and that is no bad thing. Anyway, that's the Monk. But we're not done. There was something else on display at GenCon. Exclusive promotional items. A set of Dreadveil purple dice in a presentation tin, and a scroll dice mat that doubles as storage. According to reports from attendees, these promos were available to anybody making a pre-order or purchasing a game. Now, personally, I would rather exclusives weren't a thing, and I say that as someone who is lucky enough to own one of the rarest promos ever for this game. I understand the reasoning behind exclusives, and I have to accept I live in the real world and exclusives aren't going anywhere, but I always feel bad for the serious fans who want to collect everything and yet miss out on this sort of thing through no fault of their own. I do think this probably isn't quite as bad as it could have been though. First of all, there's no gameplay content here. I think that is an important distinction with exclusives. Things that add to gameplay, like a new character, have more value to me than dice or alternative enemy sculpts. But there is a rule of cool factor to consider as well. Purple custom dice are badass. Would I want a set? Heck yeah. Would I want a dice scroll? Sure, why not? But not having those things isn't denying me access to actual gameplay, and that's the thing that always bugs me the most. Furthermore, there's no saying these promotional items won't ever become available in another format at some point in the future. Perhaps they will be repackaged as a retailer accessory pack, or they might be slipped into a forthcoming expansion. Avalon Hill do have previous for that kind of behaviour after all. But if we assume these items will never be available anywhere else, then there will certainly be a lot of unhappy HeroQuest fans, and I think it would be hard for anyone to argue that those fans shouldn't be annoyed. Ultimately, I just think this is a strange play from Avalon Hill after the backlash they faced about the Guardian Knight. I was hoping they would have learned from that and we weren't going to have repeats of this kind of situation. But oh well, it is what it is. As it stands, the best plan may be to wait and see if Avalon Hill make these products available in some other way. For now though, I think I'm about done with this. Let me know your thoughts in the comments because that is it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider pressing the like button. If you really enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing if you don't already do so, and hopefully I'll see you all again very soon. Bye bye everyone. Bye bye.